Howdy folks, sorry I am a little bit late to the party. I know you've probably seen a dozen videos on the Canon R5 already, but I just got one in. Huge thanks to B&H Photo. This is a fully, production model, retail, no production limits, nothing I can't talk about, from the store, not from Canon. Big thanks to them for getting me high on the list. We have a whole bunch of goodies here, so whilst I unpack it, let me talk you through it a bit. So first off, there has been a huge amount of coverage about this camera already. I'm sure you know the specs, so I'm not really going to spend any time on that. And given that there is so much coverage and so many tests out there now about overheating issues, I'm not really going to go over that ground either, other than to say I'm recording this in 8K, I'm uploading it in 8K, and I'll tell you how I found it at the end. But a tiny camera like that, recording 8K internally, who could have possibly predicted that there'd be heat management issues? Destroy your cards and potentially have a camera that is really going to have overheating issues. It's based on what I understand of tech in 2020, a camera that small that doesn't have a cooling fan, having 8K at a high bit rate recorded internally for, a 30-minute clip, I don't think is possible right now. So, as I was reading through the comments that people have had and different customers' reactions to the overheating and what this camera offers, it kind of reinforced the fact that no camera can do everything for every person. Some cameras are great at one task and okay at others. Some things are pretty good at a lot of different tasks, but there's just different needs for different people. Cinematographer is going to need those video specs. A still shooter might once a year want video, and then there's hybrid shooters that both are important. So in the same way that cameras can't do everything for every person, maybe every review can't cover everything for every use case. So in this, I'm going to focus in on something a little bit narrower, a little bit more specific, and if needs be, I'll do multiple videos to cover off more use cases. But in this video, I'm going to compare the R5 and its native fantastic lenses against the Sony a7R4 and its native lenses. Both their respective latest generation, highest resolution stills cameras. Both have dual card slots, eye autofocus, all of that great stuff. And let's see how the image quality compares as the primary consideration for stills. And then also handling, ergonomics, as well as autofocus. So let's do that. So this is Canon's new flagship mirrorless camera. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of videos on this already. Be honest, how many? I bet you know most of the specs. In terms of stills, it's got a 45 megapixel 5-axis image stabilized sensor. It'll do 12 frames a second mechanical shutter. It's now got dual card slots, including a new CF Express Type B card that are crazy expensive but great for getting down all that data in stills and in the various video modes that it offers. Now, in terms of the shoots, I just wanted to be able to capture files that would be useful to you guys to make informed decisions about its performance when shooting stills. So we did a couple of basic light setups here, got some portraits with nice skin tones, good highlights and shadows so you can observe how the cameras perform in those regards, and then did some slow shutter speed hand-holding test down to like a quarter of a second, and then we also dropped the power of the continuous light I've got there in the rapid box and shot with ISOs all the way up to 12,800 so you can see how they're performing in that regard as well. Okay, next up, let's head outside and do some testing with these cameras. If you haven't seen it yet, I just launched a new website, mattgrangerphotography.com. Click the link below or the card above and you can check out my free online masterclass. It's open to anyone, so check it out. So, identical settings on these two. Fairly tricky situation through all of the foliage. The Canon is getting her no problem with the eye. When she had the mask on, it couldn't find her at all. But here, I'm actually really impressed through all of this. Oh, we're getting a couple in and out, but pretty much, now that it's lost her, it's really lost her. But once I get her back out here, then it follows her through the foliage. But as soon as it loses her, she's gone for good. Let's try it with the Sony. Exact same settings on these guys. Okay, so even starting through the foliage, it gets her. Okay, and there it almost jumped off her like when the Canon did. No, it detects her better. I have to be honest because, you know, scrolling back a year or two, we did a video, I don't know if you remember, with the A6500 or something like that, and we found that through bushes, one of the cameras we were testing couldn't track, and we copped a bunch of criticism online about it. We got it in, retested it. It was a similar result, but still I had done a bit of a mistake in my testing. Now these two, they're both doing incredibly well, but I do think the a7R4 still has an edge through this kind of a scene. Okay, so that's not any kind of an exhaustive review. This is not a field tested, but it is objective. We did have a good day of shooting. I've been shooting with the a7R for a long time, this guy for a couple of days. They're both tracking really well. In most cases, they're both equal. The video tracking is probably better on the Canon, through foliage is probably better on the Sony, but they're both better than anything basically was a year ago. In terms of handling and ergonomics, I actually prefer the Canon. In terms of general autofocus, they're both fantastic. Image quality, we're going to jump to have a look in just a second. But overall, I mean, they're both fantastic cameras. I said I wasn't going to go into the overheating thing, but we've spent our day doing these little bursts of video and the camera's still overheating, and still, when we're being super careful, having them overheat way before you would expect. It's kind of a catch-22 because literally 6 months ago, there wasn't this kind of an option on the market. So now that there is, being the first on the market, of course it's not going to be perfect, but why even advertise that it does half an hour of internal 8K when it just can't? It is summer here, but it's an overcast day. It's the coldest day it's been all month, and we were still struggling to get like 10 or 12 minutes out there, and putting things into ice bags in 2020 seems ridiculous. All the other things about 8K, that it's so data intensive and that you need crazy expensive cards, that's just true of any 8K workflow. That's fine. For me, I would say if you're looking for a great stills camera and you want Canon, this is outstanding. If you want to do hybrid and you're only ever going to do 4K 30, this is probably a good option. But for me, I wouldn't even consider buying it because I would be getting it partly for the 8K because it would be a new system for me, but it's completely impractical. There's no way that I would use this. If I wanted the 4K 120, then, you know, the upcoming Sony that seems like it isn't going to overheat all the time looks like it would be a much better option. Okay folks, now I know you want to see the files for yourself, so check out the link below. You can head on over to my website and download a pack of the files to pixel peep to your heart's content, comparing the R5 to the a7R4. Big thanks again to B&H Photo for sending this out. Obviously I actually have two R5s because we're filming with one and shooting. And the videos we made today would have been impossible without two because we were switching the bodies in and out as one and the other overheated. People are going to think you're not mic'd because you've just been nodding so much, but are you okay in there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good. Not oxygen deprived or anything. Good, 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 good. Okay, so thanks to B&H Photo. Check out the cameras, check out the photos, all of that good stuff's below. We'll see you soon.
Bye.